to a ride for these measurements. There are four measurements that we just look into, right? What did we see? We just have a look at the efficiency metrics, that is cost per hire. It was telling you a cost value calculation. It was telling you a logic of cost saving. It was telling some standard benchmarking. Then we discussed about best practices. What is best practices? There was one Excel I shown human capital benchmark calculations, human capital index. So all these data will tell you whether your human capital is a credible or not. So I shown you one data that was connecting your HR activities with the profit and sales of a companies. We just had a look at the HR dashboards where you captured all the measurements. I also took a ride for you to look at the HR scorecard that was having your customer, financial, market, the operational excellence and learning. So this I shown you one HR balance scorecard. Then I have to take you for a causal chain of a HR. I'll discuss that. What is this causal? Efficiency HR measures, they talk about your input output ratio. Something input goes, something output comes. The most of the time they focus on this, that how much time you taken to fill the vacancies, what is the turnover rate, what is the total expenses. So when you convert them in terms of some cost, overhead cost, some hours, that becomes efficiency metrics. The best practice metrics is your benchmarking metrics. So you have a industry benchmark. Okay. I just now I said that there is a one benchmark, industry benchmark is your attrition rate. Okay. In any company, the attrition rate acceptable when it is within the number of 10. When you go for industry to industry, different industries have their own attrition rate. You decide which attrition rate you have to follow it based on a divisions, based on a geography, based on a location. You calculate these best practices, you bring it to your HR. Then comes dashboards. They are just a visual representation of your key measures or a metrics. You will talk about the cost, hiring, turnover, all that stuff. Then comes your HR scorecard. HR scorecard was proposed by Kaplan and Norton. They spoke about the four variables. One is customer. It could be your internal customer or external customers. The second one was internal processes. So that is what is the time required, quality, cost, and learning and growth. So what extent your people are learning and growing, and what are financial measures. When you put all these things together, that becomes your scorecard. Then causal chain. Causal chain, I'm keeping it for the discussion. Frederick Taylor. Then comes your Hugo Munzberg, 1913. He came up with the Assessment and Development Center. Or today, what you see, the ADC. So way back he started that. That is your assessment center. U.S. Army did a first time during the World War time. They did this mental ability test for the first World War time. So that was a thing. And your Hawthorne study. So that was really thrown more light on the analytics, people side of organization. Then Carl Jung, the psychological types. The Meyer-Briggs MBTI, the personality trait, also focused more on a quantitative assignment of people behavior. 1978, Dr. Jacques Fitch-Eng published the first, he coined the first word that is called as HR metrics. Okay, you will be surprised until 2010 HR matrix did not evolve too much. Okay, so I was just reading the other literature review. The HR matrix, what you are seeing in 2020, it was just a evolution that happened in last 10 years, 10 to 20. So whatever the growth that you are seeing today, it happened last 10 years. So then 2005 we come across this talent management system. Then 2010, then we start predictive analytics. Surprisingly, the predictive analytics become very popular when Jack Fitch published his book on predictive analytics in HR. So I have a soft copy of this book. I will show the beginning of your HR analytics. If you really want to have a sound HR analytics, you must be very good in metrics. If you capture the right metrics, you can analyze. If you're not starting with the descriptive, so we will not go anywhere. Second one is correlation. It's always compared with the mean. Mean comes into the picture when I say variance is a standard deviation. Correlation is your association between the variables. Say for example, you will take two variables, for example, job commitment and employee engagement. So naturally you will get a high correlation. Okay, pay increase and employee engagement. Again, there is a positive correlation. Correlation always varies between -1 to +1. Okay. Now, I discussed correlation. I discussed variance. What is covariance? How much two variables vary together? That is your covariance. Covariance is two variables vary together. Positive correlation is they vary together. Negative correlation is they go opposite. Correct? So what is the difference between correlation and a covariance? What is the difference between a covariance and correlation? Let me proceed. Correlation coefficient is a standardized representation of an association. Okay, I'll put it very simple. Say for example, when you see what is the correlation coefficient between a height and a weight, you say you will get a correlation of covariance is a degree of variation. Height and a weight. When your height increases, your weight also increases. Correct? What is correlation? You say 0.7. That means it's a positive correlation. See, when you take it as a values as it is, weight and height. One is in kg, the other one is in feet. You will get unstandardized values. This unstandardized value is called as covariance. Your covariance values lies between plus infinity to minus infinity. Okay. If you are familiar with the structural equation model, your entire structural equation model is operating based on covariance. That means it also takes into consideration of your standard deviation, variance into calculation. It is more holistic picture. It takes mean as a measurement to compare two variables. Whereas the correlation, it is just association between two variables. Okay. I discussed today 4 important terminologies in basic statistics. I discussed correlation. I have discussed variance. I have discussed correlation of coefficient. I have discussed covariance. Covariance is a unstandardized way of representing your values. Say for example, and weight you represent as it is. So that is your mention representing it in covariance. Let us start our predictive analytics. Predictive. What is predictive? It is estimation. Correct? Predictive means it is a estimation. Two kinds of estimation we will discuss. One is regression analysis, the other one is causation analysis. Okay, let me start with the regression. Regression is a trend line setting. It's a predicting the pattern based on your past data. You have a